half of it is learning how to record, you know, drums and stuff for your own album.
How far do you live away from each other at the moment?
We don't live very far away from each other, do we?
Nah, not as close. I guess it's 15, 20 minutes in a car, probably.
He lives up a hill and I live right down a hill. And it's like one long hill, very long hill. He lives at the top, I live at the bottom.
It's a big concrete hill in London. It's not a nice green hill.
It's not like a nice green hill, no.
Okay, so you just by bike, you go to him instead of he goes...
He goes by bike because it's downhill for him. I have to drive because it's like climbing a concrete mountain for me, you see.
But yeah, since what I was wondering, since you started to bring the Turin Brakes into a more, maybe more stable thing, is it for you important to be in each other's surrounding a little bit? Or does it just happen to be that way?
It's probably handy-ish.
Definitely helps when you're trying to make music together if you're in the same room.
Yeah.
But we don't.
Our studio, we have a studio together, so that's kind of, it's very close to his house and quite close to mine, so that's our, because of that we don't need to live that near each other anymore. Before we had a studio, we always lived really close to each other because it meant our bedrooms were our studios. Now we have a studio, so you know, we could live further away if we had to, but we don't want to because we're such bosom buddies. No, couldn't live without each other.
Yeah, but because how often do you meet when it comes to writing or making music?
Well, we tend to work like as a project to make an album, so we'll go almost every day to the studio until we finish it for 6 months or a year or something like that. Although we have children now, so sometimes it's not 5 days a week, but generally every day for the periods. But then when we're not making an album, we don't go to the studio and just sit around. Usually, we work on other things.
What other things?
Well, we rent our studio to other people sometimes. We engineer for them.
We record things for other people a lot, actually.
We do, yeah. We've been doing.
So basically, music-related activities.
Yeah, we've got a lot of friends, musicians that don't have access to a studio and maybe don't have the funding for a professional studio. So if we're not working in our studio, we help other people make. Like we recorded a bunch of drums for somebody and a whole load of people actually. And Gale recorded an album from an African drum master a little while ago. A friend, you know. So we just do other things really.
What have you learned by doing other things for other people that now maybe made its way back onto your record?
I find it's usually not very direct. When you're influenced by something you've done, it doesn't mean that you're, like for example, we record an album with African drums. It doesn't mean that you're going to record African drums on a Turin Brakes track, but it means there's an attitude to the way you're recording it that's very different. That's influenced by the stuff you do, but you probably could never directly pinpoint one thing exactly. And also you learn how to use the technology, you know, that's half of it, is learning how to record you know, drums and stuff for your own album.
But how much of the technical part when it comes to producing is now also involved already in the writing process, or are these two separate things for you still?
It's hard not to hear, it's very hard when you're writing, it's hard not to hear the way it should sound in your head. For me, like even when I write, one of the first things I hear is the drum part and how the drums are going to go, and then that makes other things kind of make sense. So it's hard to separate. Sometimes that's a really good thing if you just follow what the picture in your head was. Other times you have to learn to just forget that and let it be an adventure, you know.
You said you listen to the drum tanks. Do you know what he has in his first stages already in his mind?
No, of course not. I don't. I'm not in his mind. But but he. Half the fun is kind of painting that picture for the other person. You know, half the fun is sort of trying to discover that thing together. You know, and you either talk about it beforehand or you don't say anything. You just do it. And I never talk about it really. We just. Find a way, you know.